All right. So today, one of the things I realized as I was researching this and putting this presentation together, there are a lot more resources than I expected with family engagement and attendance specifically. And so one of the things that we're going to do, so that I'm not talking at you the whole time, is spend a little bit of time exploring resources so that, because I don't know about you, but I leave a meeting and I've got all these links for all these resources, and then they live on my computer, and then I never get a chance to go back to them. So I want you to have a little bit of time to be able to do that. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate you having your cameras on. I can't tell you. I hate feeling like I'm talking into a black hole. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. So today, if you could add, Angela, did you have a chance to add this information into the chat? This is how we take attendance. So I'm gonna make sure that you get credit for being here. So your name, your school, your position, and your favorite way to engage families, please. We do have a Padlet of resources that we've been accumulating things on throughout all of last semester and this semester's attendance presentations. So a recording of this will be available on the Padlet if you have other colleagues who would like to see the information. Additionally, all of the links for all the resources are there and all of the videos that I'm going to show. So that will save some frantic copying, cutting, and pasting and those kinds of things. It's on there already. So today, our goals are, we want to talk about family engagement, why that is important for students' educations. We want to talk about strategies that all families can use to encourage their students to attend school and get additional online resources for you all to use to support families in that endeavor. And then we'll look at specifically some strategies for students with disabilities and also English learners. We have some special considerations for them, and then talk about what your next steps will be. Again, it's easy to come to a training, but then what happens next with this information? Who might you share it with? Where might you incorporate it in all of the good things that you are already doing? Those are our goals for today. So just to kind of start with a general definition about what is family engagement, it refers to the systematic inclusion of families and activities and programs that promote children's development, learning, and wellness, including the planning, development, and evaluation of those activities. So we don't want to just do things to families. We want to have also their input in what's happening and in what they need and those kinds of things. So one of the phrases I heard in a PD a while ago now, no decisions about us without us. And I really like that when it relates to family and student engagement both. Just we can think we know what families need, but let's make sure we're getting their input on what they need. The biggest thing with attendance is getting down to that root cause of why is the student missing school? What's causing that reluctance to come or inability to come? High school, some of that is on the student, obviously, to get themselves to school. Elementary school, more of that might be on the family a little bit, but we also want to be careful not to play the blame game. And most families do not get up, and 99%, I think, of families do not get up and say, I'm going to figure out how to mess up my kid's education today. But isn't usually the goal that they have. Okay. But they may not be aware what a detriment is for missing school for their student. And so part of that is that partnership to talk to them about that without the blame game. All right, so Statewide Family Engagement Center through the Ohio State University is one of the amazing resources we have here in Ohio. That they take a lot of this information and they use it as a landing page. They also do their own research on family engagement and including family engagement and attendance. So one of the analogies that they use to talk about engaging families is we are like mission control, and we're trying to launch children into their futures. We're not sending them to outer space. I have a colleague that likes to tease me about that. So you're telling me we're going to throw kids into outer space. Well, some days we might want to, but mostly we want to launch them for whatever comes next after their education, whether that's enlisting in the military, enrolling in college, or being employed in the workforce. We want to make sure that they have the skills and abilities that they need in order to be able to do that. So let me start.
At the Ohio Statewide
I
Family
was trying
Engagement
to at least get to their PowerPoint so I could look at that. You know what I mean?
Families, schools, and communities work
So
together.
does this?
Helping our kids succeed is like working at NASA's Mission Control. Just like a
Can you hear
space
it?
launch needs astronauts, scientists, and mathematicians to work together,
Marty,
we need
can you hear?
schools, families, and communities to work together to help student learning take off. Everybody has a part to play if we want to have a successful launch. When these partnerships are formed, everyone benefits. Teachers are happier with their jobs, have increased confidence, and a better understanding of family and student needs. Students have higher test scores, better attendance, and a more positive attitude towards school. Families feel more supported, have increased confidence in their kids' education, and have better conversations with their kids about school. Our work in the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center is focused on equipping families and educators with what they need to form meaningful partnerships that lead to positive outcomes for all students. So, what do we do at the center? We learn from researchers, educators, families, and other national and state leaders about practices that enhance family engagement. We then take what we've learned and lead the way for the application of these practices by providing tools and trainings to Ohio families and schools for building effective family-school partnerships. To see our work and services, visit our Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center website. We filled our website with resources, trainings, news, and guidance, and stories of effective partnerships from around the state to help schools and families do family engagement well. And we keep adding new resources all the time. You can also keep up to date with us through social media. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and our website, and help us launch student success. Get ready for liftoff.
I was in a training with the Statewide Family Engagement Center, and they said they actually had a research project to determine which metaphor worked the best as far as how they could engage, how they could explain family engagement. It's not just schools talking at families. It is that two-way conversation and everybody working together. And so they had like cooks in a kitchen is one of the metaphors. They had the rocket launching into space analogy and several others. And they found that this was the most effective one to really explain the difference in, or what family engagement means now. Because in the past, family engagement really meant coming to open house, coming to conferences, and maybe coming in to volunteer at school. But if you've been to some of my other family engagement webinars and trainings, there's 6 different ways that families can be engaged now. And part of that is helping with decision making, as well as, so on your BLTs, on your PBIS teams, on your DLT, do you have a family member, and specifically a family member who doesn't work at the school, to be able to really bring that family perspective into the meetings and say, hey, this is what I'm hearing in the community. This is what I'm hearing going on among the parents that I am communicating with. You know, that strategy might have worked when I was in school, but I'm not sure it's going to work as well now. So something to think about, so that we have lots of different ways for families to be involved. Okay, because we know that it truly takes a village to help raise a child. You know, we need to have strong families knowing how to send their kids to school, the things they can do at home to support their student while they're at school and with academics and behavior. We want to have good supportive schools so that when we are missing some of those pieces at home, we know, and I say this in all of my trainings, it doesn't matter if you're an urban, a rural, or a suburban district. For some of our kiddos, school is the safest, most consistent, most loving environment that they are in a 24-hour period. And I don't like that fact, but it is a fact. And it happens in all schools. We have a handful of kids at least where school is their safe space. That's why they don't love Christmas break necessarily, because they don't necessarily feel as comfortable at home. They don't have all their basic needs met all the time at home. Okay. And then having healthy community. Sometimes in the morning session, we talked about a couple of doctors, medical personnel in a community that were writing notes saying this student needs to be on an IEP. We may need to have a conversation about that. That's not that's not quite how that process works. And then, can we talk to community members and medical offices about, is it a possibility to save those later in the afternoon after school times for appointments and those kinds of things? So the kids aren't being pulled out for orthodontic appointments and, you know, yearly checkups and those kinds of appointments that aren't because the student is sick. So just looking at the whole village and how we can all work together and leverage our different areas to help support kids and get them to school. Comments, questions? This is a small enough group. I would love to make this as interactive as we can. Angela?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was actually typing, because I didn't do the assignment correctly. But I said, we're really trying to tackle attendance and achievement with engagement because it's all
Mhm.
interconnected, right? So our focus of really starting early at that elementary level to build relationships, build trust, build that foundation. I think when parents feel like their voice is heard and their presence is valued, they're gonna continue to show up. And
Mhm.
so we're really trying to hone in on like the face-to-face conversations, a phone call, just being available for parents to reach out, being a safe space. I think that trickles down into how the students view school. If
Mhm.
parents aren't valuing it from home, the kids are hearing that, they're not being encouraged to get to school and to work hard and to do their best. So we're really working on the relationships, the trust, the follow through. But it definitely is a problem, especially as you go up in the grades with
Mhm.
attendance. And that's again, the attendance is contributing to the achievement and the behavior, and it's all wrapped up.
Round and round and round we go, right? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And it's absolutely the truth. We need to have those relationships. We need to build relationships with students. We need to build relationships with families. And especially some of our families didn't have great experiences in school. One of the other participants this morning said that we talk later about students with disabilities. If the family also has a disability, and they did not have a great experience at school, or their skills are a little more limited, that isn't an extra layer that gets added into, or they don't have transportation with or without a disability. The lack of transportation is a huge issue. So yes, all of these things intertwine. Anyone else want to share?
I would say just some of the stuff I'm working on right now as it relates to attendance meetings, right? I get them when it's gotten to a point where it requires that meeting and calling the parents just to explain to them the reason for the meeting and letting them know that it's not punitive in nature, but it is just to have a conversation about what are those barriers and how as a community we can support them. Kind of reframes the conversation. I think I get a little better participation in those. Granted, the follow through doesn't necessarily always come, but every now and again, we do find that there is a real true barrier and we can come up with a really viable solution and turn that around.
Mhm.
So sometimes that's been a really great conversation and just linking them up to a resource. They didn't realize honestly that it was that big of a deal that their kid was missing that much because their grades were up or whatever the case may be. And so sometimes those calls, because when we send that letter that comes out of Power School, is not, a very welcoming letter. So
Mhm.
sometimes that call helps and at least gets the parents in, so we can have a meaningful conversation about going forward.
Absolutely. And then the question becomes, do we need to revise that letter that comes out of Power School? Do we have
Yes.
any editing access to
Yes,
that?
we do need to revise that letter. It's the parents, parents that I've known for a really long time, they're like, this letter is so negative, and when I get it, I'm just like agitated. I'm like,
Mhm.
I understand that. So let me meet you where you are, and really, here's what we're really gonna talk about. And that for me is like, really, I don't know if you agree down in Finley, but that's really the only opportunity I have to kind of change the trajectory because I know the courts aren't gonna help me with it, right? Like
Mhm.
I have truancy cases I that were charged in October that still haven't made it their way there because in Lucas County we're just dealing with other things that truancy isn't at the highlighted, so I know I'm not going to get the support from there. So that's really my chance to have a meaningful conversation that I got to maybe look at that the best way possible.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And the Statewide Family Engagement Center website does have examples of parent letters
Okay.
that have a little more parent-friendly, family-friendly language in them so that they aren't quite
Awesome.
so
Yeah. Let me
scary.
write that down then, because I hate our letter, to be honest.
Yeah. So Statewide Family Engagement Center, the website is on the Padlet. So,
Okay.
Yeah, because that's important. And we have a couple people in our office who have had children who have had some significant health issues. And you know, the anxiety and the concern that comes from that. And then they get this letter in the mail saying, you know, you're in danger of going to court. And I'm like, okay, really? I've been communicating with you that you know, my kid's in the hospital or whatever it is. So we want
Mhm.
to be careful with those kinds of things so that we aren't putting people on the defensive right away in those kind of cases, especially. So, all right, anyone else want to share? Good. All right, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. So, according to Attendance Works, this is a quote from their website. Schools and families must work together to ensure that students attend school regularly. When schools engage families in positive ways and provide support, students are more likely to attend school consistently and succeed academically. From PBIS training, we know the best way to change behavior is point out what someone's doing right, point out what they're doing well. And so we want to try to focus on the positives wherever we can. I had a school principal in downtown Toledo. She told me about a little guy that would come to school every day. They'd walk to school. He was fifth grader, should have been in sixth grade, had been retained. So little, you know, about sixth grade. And he came to school with his stair-stepped siblings, 5 of them marching behind him. And he got them to school, but they were late. Just about every day they were late, 9:30, 10 o'clock. They were late. So she pulled him into the office and said, hey, buddy, I'm so glad you guys are here at school today. I know that's a lot of hard work, but do we think we could come a little bit earlier? You're missing that first part of the day, and your siblings are missing that first part of the day. And he looked at her and he says, ma'am, are you trying to get 5 little kids out the door every morning to go to school? She said, no, I am not. I am doing the best I can. Mom wasn't available. Mom was not part of that morning routine. And so therefore the 6th grader, 5th grader, 11-year-old, 12-year-old was getting himself and his 5 siblings out the door every day. Okay. Thank you for making it. Yes, we would like you to be here earlier, but thank you for being here, because it would probably have been a lot easier most days for him to send everybody back to bed and say, forget it. We're not even bothering today. So having those conversations is really important. Trying to identify those barriers, really important. All right, just as a reminder, we're talking about chronic absenteeism. Okay, so truancy is just unexcused absences. Average daily attendance is just how many kids you have on average in your building every day. Okay, those are important numbers in other spots in EMIS. But chronic absenteeism has to do with the total number of days or hours that add up to a day that a student misses for whatever reason. Okay, so it could be because they are suspended. It could be an excused absence, a doctor's appointment, a medical appointment, whatever that is, or it could be unexcused absences. It's all of those added together, and anything 10% and higher is considered to be chronic absenteeism. Okay, so that equates to about 2 days a week, or not a week, I'm sorry, 2 days a month. 2 days a month missing can add up to being 20% or 10% of school, and that becomes chronic absenteeism. In school suspensions, they're missing, if they're missing out on educational learning, Margie, they're still missing. They're still missing. Okay. So if they're receiving their work, that is better. If they are in an in-school suspension space and they're still receiving their work, if they are a student with disability and still receiving their service time, then that's better, obviously. But they still aren't involved in the rich conversation and the activities and those kinds of things that are happening in your
Oh, I
classrooms.
agree. I agree with what you're saying. I'm just curious where it falls into counting or not counting towards the chronic absenteeism.
Legally, I haven't read anything where in school suspension counts toward chronic absenteeism. It's just the out of school suspension that counts toward that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Angela, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, because I was thinking along the same lines as she is. You know, in my world of special education, I have to be really careful when it comes to students missing school and manifestations and all of that. So we do not count our in-school assignment because it's with, like, they have access to learning. They do have access to support, someone to monitor, although it's not, you know, they're not in the classroom getting that school experience with their peers. Same thing with like emergency removals. That would be, you know, if it happens 10 minutes at the end of the day, we wouldn't count that as a day out. But if it happened at 9 o'clock in the morning, we would.
Yeah. If it happens at 9 o'clock in the morning, that qualifies as a suspension.
Yeah.
And the 10 minutes can add up hour-wise, since we do hours in Ohio.
We kind of just changed our language 5 or 6 years ago specifically, because if we're in school, it's not a suspension, it's a reassignment, because suspensions are appealable and reassignments are not.
Mhm.
So like you said, if it's an in-school, it's not a suspension to us, it's a reassignment, and they have access to all their work, and they have access to teachers, and they have access to that kind of stuff. But out of school, when it's a legit suspension, we do count those.
Yeah. And again, even as you pointed out, Angela, if you have students with disabilities, they still need to be receiving their SDI, specially designed instruction, in order to have that count as in school and not having to make up that time in those hours. A good question, Margie. Anything else? All right. Okay. This is a video that came from Attendance Works, and it is an example of a video that they are sharing that you could share with families to talk about some ways to support their student and getting them to school. Just some basic things that families can do. Again, I want to be careful. We aren't using this to blame families, but we're just providing them with information about, I don't know about you guys. I have grown-up kids now. Glad, love them, glad they're grown up. But parenting was really hard. I mean, it still is really hard, even with the 20-somethings. There's a lot of things that I thought I knew and turned out to be kind of tricky. And I have a couple of degrees, like all of you do, to help support this parenting thing. For families that don't have some of the extra degrees, and there's just a lot of things, especially if you're going from a model of trying to parent differently than the way you were parented, or the way you were parented is just all you know. And you're like, oh, you mean they have to have a bedtime? Oh, they're supposed to have this many hours of sleep? Okay. I didn't know that. You know, my daughter was exiting 3-year-old preschool. She was 4, exiting 3-year-old preschool. And the teacher said to me, well, the only skill that she hasn't met is she doesn't know how to use scissors. Because I've never given her scissors, because why would you give a 3-year-old scissors? That seems like a dumb idea. So my second child, 3-year-old, she got scissors, supervised, obviously. So just as information for families and parents, this is a video that could be used as an example.
Ask parents and they will tell you attending school is
Tammy,
Garrett?
you haven't been sharing your screen, so I don't know if I'm the only one that's
I
not
think
seeing
that,
it or if others aren't.
I can see it.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay, let me stop and try again. But thank you for letting me know, Angela.
I can see it
Oh.
as
You can see it, Margie, or cannot?
I can.
You can. Okay.
Yes, I can. Sorry, I'm eating my lunch here, so
That's
Yeah.
okay.
I
We're glad you're here. I'm glad you get a chance to eat. That's important too. All right. And let me stop sharing and see if I reshare it. Angela, let's see
It
if you
could,
can
maybe
see
it's just me. I just see people. I don't see a video.
it. All right. Did that help at all?
Yes, thank you.
Yay. Thank you for telling me. I always wonder, sitting on this side, if people can see and hear what's going on. Okay, so tell me if the volume is okay.
The age, it's really important for him to get
Hear
used
it?
to coming to school every day.
Attendance is important.
Yeah,
Now,
turn it up a little, Tammy, please.
you miss school, you miss out.
As long as you go to school, you get that foundation, then later on you can choose whatever you want.
You know, school is very important, not just for your education, but for you to learn how to socialize.
Yet, student absenteeism is a national crisis. Nationwide, 1 out of 10 students are chronically absent, meaning they miss 18 days or more over the course of an entire school year.
I learned the importance of attendance when my son was in 2nd grade. I didn't know that by him missing 1 or 2 days out of the month, he was actually being chronically absent. You know, he was not reading a grade level, and his writing wasn't as great. So when I went to do a meeting with the teacher, and I asked her, you know, what's the reading level of my son? What's his writing level? And she told me that he was behind.
It's normal for students to miss a few days of school. Kids do get sick, especially when they're younger. But if absences continually add up, even if it's only just 2 or 3 days each month, by the end of the school year, students can have missed so much instruction that they experience difficulty learning to read, mastering important math concepts, passing courses, and ultimately graduating from high school.
Many times when we talk to the families, they're just not aware about the importance of being in school every single day. They may feel that, you know, missing a school day here or there, it's okay because of family issues and other commitments that they have. But what we see over and over again is when parents get that information and someone actually communicates to them and helps them understand the consequences, they'll be the first champions to ensure that that child is in school.
If the parent tells me it's 1 day here, 1 day there, I'll let them know that that becomes a habit. 1 day here, 1 day there becomes 2 days here, 3 days there, and potentially a dropout, you know, by the time they get to high school.
Good attendance starts with families making it a priority, even when it isn't always easy. It makes a difference when families set a regular bedtime and morning routine to make sure children get enough sleep and wake up ready for school. Make medical appointments when school is not in session. Avoid taking vacations when school is in session. Send children to school every day unless they're truly sick. Finally, develop backup plans for getting children to school if something comes up.
So now my son, I want to tell you that he's in 8th grade. So the years have passed. Now I have 2 other children that are in school. One of them's in 5th grade and the other one's in 2nd grade, 3rd grade actually. My daughter's in 3rd grade, and attendance has become something that in our household we really make it very important.
Families can also turn to each other for help, setting up carpools or joint child care arrangements to make their lives a little easier. As a parent myself, I know how much I value being able to turn to friends and family for help.
I think parents can help each other in a lot of ways, and I think that part of that is the school figuring out exactly what the issue is and why their child's not coming, and then creating a connection for parents to say, oh, you live in the same area, maybe you can contact this parent, or let me put you in touch with this parent to see if you can pick up, you know, a child, or if they can help take your child home in the afternoon, whatever the issue is.
Sometimes, though, families face bigger challenges to getting to school, such as a lack of reliable transportation or stable housing. Chronic illness can also complicate attendance.
Last year, John, the asthma was really bad, and he missed almost a week each month out of school for, I'd say, 6 months.
When more serious challenges arise, families can work with their schools to make sure their children get what they need. In Baltimore, for instance, John's asthma-related absences subsided when his school opened a full-service health clinic.
If your school doesn't have a school nurse and your child has a chronic condition, you could advocate for your child as well as the other children in the school. I would suggest that you have a conversation with the principal and kind of asking the principal what the protocols are if your child, should have an asthma attack during school time.
If there are things that are problems that prevent them from coming to school that we cannot help if they don't let us know, just letting parents know that it's okay, that that times are hard and obviously situations arise, and we will do what we can as a school to try to support.
Parents can make a real difference in solving the problem of too many absences. We need to work together in our homes, in our schools, in our communities. When we help our children attend today, we ensure they can achieve tomorrow.
So parents, get your kids to school. They have to come every day. It's so fun, and the teachers love them, and they don't fall off track when they're here every day. So I feel that would be my bit of advice for parents.
All right, anything you've heard in that video that you think would be a helpful tip to share with families, or something that you could do at school to help support families?
I like the idea of being able to connect families to help each other. I just think it can be a tricky thing because you may not know enough about the different families, like maybe somebody wouldn't want their kid riding in a car with someone because maybe they don't typically wear their car seats, or maybe they drive impaired or something, I think it's important to find ways to figure out how you can hook up families, but sometimes the risks maybe be there as well. That makes sense.
I thought that one parent just not even realizing, like innocently, that these attendances were that impactful. So while a parent might just be like, oh, you could stay home today, or, oh, you woke up late, like maybe they don't know how impactful those absences are. So just that friendly approach to inform and educate rather than to criticize, that, we are seeing an impact, or, they're struggling to keep up in class. So maybe bringing it to their attention could be something that's a start.
Absolutely. In one of the earlier attendance PDs that I did, I played, some of you may be too young, but the Ferris Bueller clip where the principal calls home and you realize that he's been absent 9 times. 9 times. I can't believe he's been absent 9 times. Yes, I'm looking at it right here, and then it goes down because he hacked the computer. But a little bit older movie, but that's the first thing I thought of when I thought about letting parents know how many times their child has missed.
My personal thought is, if you can get as much done in a day as Ferris Bueller, you might need to take one of those days every now and again.
Right. Mental health day occasionally, especially like that. Minus a couple of well, I guess they're legal now. Activities that they did. But Margie, I do agree with you. Sometimes obviously as schools, we don't want to take responsibility for, but I know one of the community schools in our areas, they were doing like sign up boards for, hey, I live in this neighborhood and I'm willing to take kids to and from school if you need help, or exchanging phone numbers, that kind of thing, but putting it on the parents, but making it available to create those connections if possible.
If you want a more current, funny, similar to Ferris Bueller's, there's a good engagement clip on Abbott Elementary. If anybody watches that, just same kind of concept.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, because that is a much more current.
I think if you set up some, like years ago, I was involved in Families and Schools Together was the name of the program. It was called FAST. And that set up really strong relationships with families, with schools. There was only maybe 8 or 10 families each session, but then those families continued to meet for a year and a half after their 6 or 8 week session. And then there would be another group of families. And sometimes those natural, I can help you out kind of things can come out of something like that if there are opportunities, like you were saying, like the ride board or whatever.
Yeah, just building that village, that network of support, especially if people don't have family in town that can help with those kinds of things. I know, I mean, that was an issue for us as far as we don't live close enough to family to have it be a help. I need someone to get a ride to school because they missed the bus and I have to go to work or whatever that looks like and sounds like. So good. Martha, I don't want you to feel left out. Anything you want to jump in on, or Miss Bruno?
As I'm watching this, I'm just thinking of the older students that I work with because I work with freshmen. And when parents were in earlier this year for conferences and we were talking about, I always try to talk about the positive things that I see before I have to mention, and by the way, your student is chronically absent. 2 of my parents at least said, in order for me to get my student to school, I would have to get physical with them, like physically get them out of bed because they just will not, we're talking about freshman boys and girls that will not physically get up, and I'd have to get physical with them and I just don't want to. So I'm listening to all of this, but at the same time, I know in my head, like, okay, this is not, this is a little bit different situation of the students that I'm working with this year specifically.
Yeah, that's where I wonder, that engagement piece, like, how can we hook them and get them involved in something that is meaningful to them for their future? I mean, can they look, and I know at 14, sometimes that's hard, 13, 14, but can we look ahead to what do you want to do in the future? We look at your graduation plan, what might you be interested in? And then these are the classes that are going to help you get there. And so in order to get where you want to be, you need to be in school. You need to be, at some point, if it involves career tech, attendance is going to affect your grades. And I mean, even if your goal is, I just want to be out of school and I want to have a job, you have to go to work in order, and that's an issue with employers right now. Please show up to work. So not a magic wand. None of it's a magic wand, unfortunately, but yeah. And hopefully by starting some of these habits early, we can mitigate some of that later stuff in future classes of kids, so that we start those good habits early or with kids. Not that it's impossible once they're in high school, but one of the research-based facts is start early, setting those precedents early.
Tammy, do you know if there is a great kind of summary, I guess, of the attendance law that's in good family-friendly language? Because I have one that was written for educators, right? But I think sometimes too, I wish there was an easy way of giving them just a laydown of what that looks like, because when we're explaining these in these attendance meetings and talking about it, I wish there was some kind of, I was dabbling around here on this and I found a couple great resources on this Family Engagement Center. But I was just wondering if there was something in a different session that maybe I had missed that we could give the families that summarize that law a little better.
Okay, so off the top of my head, we have.
Well, Tammy, maybe even the like the press news release that we do to the schools in regards to what chronic absenteeism is. would
The
be maybe a
newsletter we
good-
did,
Yeah,
this one. Yeah, so this is on the Padlet. I can also, I
Okay.
can put the link in the chat for you. It's a s'more that we put out. So we did a survey on what topics for attendance and engagement would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so the top ones, we're doing these in person or the virtual PD on. The next few, we decided to do some newsletters on. And
Okay.
so this is A+ attendance tips. So it comes from the FAQ that is put out around House Bill 410,
Mm-hmm.
House Bill 410, now House Bill 33. That slipped in. I'm like, I thought that was the literacy bill. It is. They put all sorts of stuff in it. But so this might be helpful. So, or taking parts of this to say, you know, to put into your own newsletter.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. So I was at BASA last week and in an attendance session. And then I attended a Scholastic one called Everyone Wins too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the approach I'm going to try next, just because, like you said, how can I get some of these things out? Maybe some of our monthly newsletter. Hey, did you know, missing just 2 days of school can lead to like just some like quick type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of going to be my next approach too. So I'm glad to see other people are thinking this is worth a try.
So this was something we were going to do in a little bit, but we'll take the teachable moment right now.
Okay.
This is also a link that is on the Padlet, handouts for families. And so this might be a good starting point. It's not so much the legalese necessarily, but it's kind of the importance of attendance. So they have a general one. This one's preschool, kindergarten, getting ready for school, preschool and kindergarten, elementary, and then a middle and high school handout. So this one obviously might be one that would be interesting for you. And kind of a, did you know, it's a 1-pager.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I believe these are also available in Spanish.
Yeah, I did see, because I grabbed one of those up, and as a matter of fact, it was in like 10 languages for me. It was pretty delightful. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
Attendance Works is really working hard on getting things into multiple languages so that hopefully it is in one that is represented in your district. So something like this might be helpful.
Yeah.
1-pager, send home electronically, send home as a handout, as a flyer, set up at open house at the beginning of the school year, putting it everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this is one of the resources that are available on Attendance Works. Yeah, this one's an infographic for in the early grades. So that one is just a little different format. So lots of different options there. And again, these are available Spanish, Chinese, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. So, but good question. Thank you for asking, Corey. All right, anything else? Okay, let's jump back in. So this bringing attendance home video, it is available in Spanish, and there's a video discussion guide, and then a video in English, but then a video script in Spanish and a PowerPoint. So you could even do this as a family engagement night and bring in families, talk about attendance. This one, the video obviously is a little more elementary based. I have 2 other videos that dip into high school, so hang in there, high school people. And then there is a toolkit that we'll explore a little bit later today with lots of different activities and resources to do with families and with students to talk about attendance. All right. So Statewide Family Engagement Center basically did a research project where they looked at all of these different attendance resources and then boiled them down into the top suggestions that came out of all of these different resources. I'm like, oh, thank you so much for doing that for us. So there's a shortened brief that talks about these in one of their newsletters, or you can read the whole research brief on their website. But it basically boils down to these 4 strategies. Start early, practice effective and two-way communication, engage families in equitable and collaborative leadership, and then include chronic absenteeism in staff professional learning so that we make sure that our staff is also aware of what those numbers look like for chronic absenteeism. Okay, so we'll go through each one of these quickly. Starting early. And again, I know we've got some high school folks here, but we want to start these good attendance practices early with kids. I'm guilty as a mom when my kids were little. I know that there were times that we took them out of school for a family vacation, wanting to go on an off time so that we didn't have to pay as much for tickets and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't a good idea I now know. Our kids were moving fast enough through school curriculum and that kind of thing. It didn't have a huge negative impact on their education, but still, probably not the best precedent to start. We want to make sure that families do understand that preschool, kindergarten, first grade, the kids are learning lots of important stuff in those early years. And they're also setting up and starting habits so that, it makes it easier when you can say, you have always been expected to go to school unless you are sick. It is time to go to school. We got to get out of bed. Need to go to school. Okay. And so that's establishing those expectations early with kids. Early in high school, early in middle school, early in elementary school. Working with community members to share information. If we can put information in pediatricians' offices in town, if we can, I know Washington Local 2 years ago had a really big attendance push. They're still working on attendance, but everywhere that you drove around West Toledo, there were different billboards and signage that said every student every day getting to school. It's important that they're in school. Just that advertising in the community and that kind of thing to really focus on it is important to get everybody in school. I have a downtown Toledo, there's a Carter High School, 6 through 12 building. And there's a convenience store near the building. And the person who works in the convenience store will sell things to the students. And then she calls the school and says, by the way, you've got a couple students down here. And I know it's during the school day. Well, that's one way to engage community members. She still gets her business, but the kids are then escorted back to school. So sharing that information, again, having that community work with us to help support kids. And then for the students when they're in school, sending out some of these attendance notifications, information pieces, starting in the summertime, with those early contacts that you have with families before school starts, sending out, let's get started on the right foot. Having some kinds of like contests and things like that in school, not necessarily just perfect attendance. Perfect attendance is amazing and wonderful and all of those kinds of things. But if I'm looking at perfect attendance and I've already missed a day of school this year, well, now that's blown, like no big deal anymore. So like 90%, 93%, if we can make it something practical so that if students are truly sick, they will stay home, because we all know we don't want them coming to school and sharing their germs anyway. Okay. I know Summit in here in Toledo had a program last year where they, for both students and families, since they didn't have buses at that point, they knew families had a big part in getting their kids to school. And so therefore, for any students that hit 93% attendance for the time period that was marked, they were invited to a breakfast, like a pancake or bagel breakfast or something, and their families were also invited since they were instrumental in getting the kids to school. Also keeping those times short. If I miss a week at the beginning of the semester because I got sick and it's the whole semester, well, I've already blown my 10%, so it doesn't matter anymore until next semester. So keeping it to a week or 2 weeks at a time to keep track. So that we always have a start over date to look forward to. Any ways that you do this with any of these things with families? That you want to share?
We were
Hi,
kind
Laura.
of talking about how we used to have like perfect attendance awards, and we got rid of that type of thing because of COVID. We don't want kids coming to school sick because they just wanted to get that so bad. So instead, we're talking about just doing one of those attendance campaigns. We haven't landed on anything yet. but we'd like to do something next year right off the get-go to do one of those kind of a different approach, I guess. It's a good way to
Yeah.
say it.
Positive approach so that, and again, every 2 weeks, if you hit X percent of being in school or once a month or whatever, again, not too long of a time period, but just the acknowledgement of being there. I have a high school, community school, high school, and attendance is a huge issue with them. And literally they've gotten donations from their teachers and they are meeting the kids at the front door in the morning with snacks. If you come on time and you come to school, you get a bag of chips or some fruit snacks or something like that. Now, granted, they only have 200 kids, so that makes a big difference. And unfortunately, they're not all there every day, but they're finding a big success with that. And it's a population of students that food insecurity is a real thing. So just that simple acknowledgement of, I see you, I'm glad you're here, have a snack on us, seems to be really helping them. Anyone else?
Tammy, I am
Yes.
going to turn my camera off because I'm getting the unstable bandwidth and you're freezing on my part. So I don't know if it is on anyone else's, but I'm going to turn my camera off just to see if that'll help.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Our bandwidth in our office is not always as strong as we would like it to be. Laura, we're glad you were able to join us. Thanks for sharing in the chat. You love opportunities when we can teach families easy things they can do at home to help their student at home in a fun and engaging way. Yeah, so we just looked at a video that was aimed at parents. It's on the Padlet. So feel free to check that one out. It might be something you want to share with your families. Thanks for putting that in, and we're glad you were able to hop in with us. All right. So effective and two-way communication. Key here is two-way as much as possible. We want to make sure that we are talking, but we're also listening to families and trying to figure out what is the root cause of the student missing school. So for our freshmen who are not getting out of bed, why don't they want to come to school? What is that root cause? Is there some bullying going on? Are they frustrated academically? Are they staying up all night and playing video games? So therefore they're not awake enough in the morning to get out of bed? What's happening? Like why isn't school on their list of things to do in the morning, kind of thing? And having that conversation with families, then problem solving with those attendance plans to help encourage, help to resolve the root cause of the problem as much as possible and hopefully improve attendance. Again, we're listening to families, no decisions about us without us. One of the things I had heard in another PD that I did is the number of different places that families need to go to get information. So, and I think a lot of this came out of COVID, where the 4th grade teacher uses Dojo and sends Dojo messages. But the 5th grade teacher uses Google Classroom and sends messages that way. And the high school uses this platform to send information out. And the middle school uses, and if you've got several children in several different buildings or grade levels, that can get overwhelming. And especially if you don't consider yourself to be super tech savvy. And trying to check all those different places could be problematic. So can we at least get the same building on the same communication method? If we're using an app or a website or Remind or something like that, can we streamline this a little bit to make it easier for families who have kids in multiple grades and potentially in multiple schools? So something to think about. And then asking families about their preferred method of communication. Is there an easier way? I will tell people it's easier if you email me versus call me. If you want me to call you, put that in the email, because I can check email in lots of different places versus my phone. I have to be in the office, or I have to have my work phone on in the evenings in order to get your calls. So asking what is their preferred method so that you have the best chance of reaching them. Engaging families in equitable and collaborative leadership. So several different ways we can do this. Mommy, I know you guys have worked with me with PBIS for a long time. Do you have a family member on your PBIS team or your DLT team? Yay, good job. Or your BLT. Did you want to say something, Corey? Go ahead.
No, I would just, we do have one on our PBIS. We don't have one, we have students on our PBIS and a parent on our PBIS. We don't on our, BLT, when we meet on more like run-of-the-mill things, right? Like scheduling conversations. But when we meet as our district building leadership team, we do have parents sit on those. So that's a nice, it's always, they have great ideas, and we also have community members, right? They have great ideas, but sometimes they don't realize some of the components. It takes a lot of time to get them to like get up to speed with where we are. You know, because they will have these grandiose ideas, which are awesome. But like even sometimes they wanted to redesign our PBIS and they wanted to come up with a new acronym, but like they didn't realize it couldn't be like 7 things long, right? There's too many things. So sometimes it takes us a lot longer to get them to where we are, and then the turnover, right? They've done it for a year and they're ready to go on. So that's a little harder, but we have got some good feedback from both community and parents in that way.
Good, good. And even those misunderstanding moments, or, you know, things that aren't possible, if they hear in the community, well, why don't they change the acronym for PBIS? They can say, oh, I was in that meeting and this is why they can't. So hopefully they can be advocates for you guys. Yeah, you guys all got on the same page with PBIS. Don't let anybody mess it up. But yeah, having parents involved. We also have, through family engagement, the Ohio Network of Partnership Schools, kind of an offshoot of the National Network of Partnership Schools. And this is having a family engagement team that team plans family engagement around district goals and like one plan goals. So if we're going to have a literacy night and our one plan says that our students need help with reading informational text, let's have the literacy night focused on informational text, just as an example, okay? So that would be another way to engage families. Or your attendance team. Do we have a parent on an attendance team to say, hey, you know, this is what I'm hearing in the community, and, you know, have you thought about? Or, you know, that bus always comes 20 minutes late or 20 minutes earlier than they said they were going to. That could be why kids are missing the bus, that kind of thing. So the different ways that families can partner. Did I skip a slide? Okay, I did. So asking, all right, sorry, I got off on a tangent. So this, you'll notice this creates the acronym of PRICE, P-R-I-C-E. So families have many different roles within the school system. All right. So a provider, they provide food, clothing, transportations, and set those expectations for attendance. If any of these things are missing, we know if the Maslow part isn't taken care of, those basic needs aren't taken care of, then the learning brain has a lot harder time engaging. Okay. If I'm hungry, I'm not thinking about algebra. I am thinking about food. Clothing, if I am being picked on because my clothes aren't washed, or I don't have a uniform for people that need uniforms, or whatever it is, that's distracting me from learning. So parents or families are also receivers of information from school. So are we communicating in a way that it is reaching them? Are we communicating in their home language as much as possible? Are we, again, offering that option for two-way communication? Initiator, taking roles on those different types of committees, like I mentioned before. Co-designer, are they being consulted for policy changes? Okay. Or helping create an attendance plan for their own child. You know, this could really work for them because they are really into X right now. So we'll work together, and if they are in school, then we will help with some kind of incentive at home to help out. And then evaluator, providing feedback through surveys. I know a lot of people are doing climate surveys, surveying kids, surveying families. How do they feel about the school? Is the school a safe place for them to be? So just different ways to interact with families to make sure that you're getting that family voice in what you're doing, and they feel empowered to make a difference. And then including chronic absenteeism in professional learning. You know, when kids come back to school, How's that going? Do we have an easy place for teachers to have the work that they missed and for them to get support in the work that they miss? Are the secretaries in your front office happy to see them, or are they scolding them as soon as they come in the door? That can make a difference. That can make a difference. Is your staff aware of the chronic absenteeism data in your building or in your district, and how important that is and how much of an effect that can have on the student's education? Can they help you brainstorm solutions? What are they hearing from kids in classrooms? And then are you training staff in different interventions? You know, a 2x10 strategy where they talk to one student 10 consecutive school days for 2 minutes. Just getting to know them, help build that relationship with them. And then strengthen the feeling of student belonging. You know, do students feel like they have a reason to be at school? They belong there. And then also, is the curriculum relevant? Do they see the reason why they need to come to school? Is it helping them work toward their goals of what they want to do next when they graduate? Can we help them create some of those goals? You know, what are you interested in? How does this fit in? And how is that going to help you get where you need to be? All right, any comments, questions, stories about any of these things, ways that you're rocking and rolling any of this, all of this? We're in the 2 o'clock hour. It's always a hard hour. All right, let's jump to the next thing. All right, so I'm going to ask, please don't leave. All right. The morning session gave me a little bit of a complex because as soon as I said jigsaw activity, all of a sudden people started blinking out. I'm like, yeah, so don't leave. I'll give you options. I'll give you choices. One of the things I realized when I was doing all this research is how many resources are out there. And if you're like me, as I said, you go home with all these links and then you never have time to actually dig in and research the links. Okay, so my plan A was to put you in breakout rooms and have you look through a certain resource. And I pulled out 3 resources that I thought would be helpful. So we can do it that way. You can each choose a resource that you are interested in and take about 15 minutes to read through it and then come back as the group and report out what you found in that resource so that we're sharing that information with each other. Or I can simply go through the resources and kind of scroll through them and tell you what I have noticed and what I have seen. The idea of this was to increase some engagement, but if it's going to make you turn off, you know, exit the room, that's counterproductive. So how would you like to do this? I am open to your ideas and we don't all have to do it the same way. If somebody would like to go into a breakout room and work on one thing and someone else would like to do it on their own, I'm totally cool with that too. So what do you prefer? You want to see the resources first? Would that be helpful?
I think since you researched the resources already, you probably have a pretty good idea of what's in there. So I don't mind at all, like listening to you provide the information so that I can like, would that work for me? Should I look into that further? Kind of thing. I don't know, just my idea.
Okay, thank you so much.
I feel the same, Maureen, because as you've been talking, I've been on Attendance Works and just kind of pulling some things as you talk and just not even really looking at it, but kind of just saving it to my desktop so I know that I like that and I want to come back to it. And then added a couple things to the attendance campaign that I'm thinking about for next year. So I'm happy to listen and see because I'm getting a lot of good stuff.
Okay. All right, Martha, Laura. Go ahead.
I'm okay with that too.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay. I just don't want to be a talking head because I know Zooming even for 2 hours, and to the point I will not Zoom. I will not present more than 2 hours because nobody can pay attention that long. So, all right. So these handouts for families. This is one that we looked at earlier. Okay. So different age levels just kind of gives an overview of why it's important to be in school. And then let me go a little bigger. why it's important to be at school, and then some tips for families to help get their student to school. Okay, so we pulled up the high school one before. This one is a pre-K handout. So, and again, they don't mind if you change. Thank you, Marty. They don't mind if you change like some of the, make it your own kind of thing, but make sure you give Attendance Works credit because they're the ones that put it all together. Okay, so did you know that this helps showing up or not showing up can make it harder for students to gain early reading and math skills, build relationships, and develop good attendance habits. And then these are things that you can do. And again, it comes in different languages, so that's helpful. So that's the one we looked at a little bit before. And again, it goes middle school, high school, elementary, pre-K. And then this is a getting ready for school. So this could be before school starts, sending it out to the little ones, to the families of the little ones, so that they have the information before they even get started. All right. This one is from Attendance Works as well. This has student success plans. And so we know that all students 9 through 12 need to have a graduation plan. Okay, so where are they in earning their seals, their courses, their credits, and then their competency as far as whether or not they're passing their class or passing the end of course exams or work-based learning, their web exams, IRCs, all that stuff. So everybody has to, 9 to 12 has to have that graduation plan. For students who aren't meeting whatever thresholds that have been set by your districts, and usually that includes attendance, behavior, and course grades, they also need to have a success plan. So it's kind of like a modified type of IEP as far as, okay, here's the area we're concerned about, and that's for kids 6 through 12. So these are the areas we're concerned about. So attendance can be one of those areas. What are we going to do to help improve attendance or the behavior so they're not being suspended, or courses so that they're passing their courses? Okay, so all of that's available on DEW's website. If you have questions, Lisa Height in our office is our resident expert on all of those things. So this takes a student success plan. So that one's preschool, we have elementary, and we have secondary. So let's look at the secondary here real quick. And this is able to be edited. Flip back over where you can see it. All right, you're looking at my attendance success plan. Yes, is that what you can see? Yeah, okay. All right, so possible strategies to reach my attendance goals. All right, bedtime routine, attending school every day and on time a priority. So you can choose areas that are areas of concern and then that can be addressed. Let me zoom it. Those of us with older eyes so that you can see it. Yeah, okay. Okay, so you can choose these areas to look at. All right, and if you were not in our attendance tier 3, it's on the Padlet. Washington Local let us use a copy of their attendance plan. It's also so I have it on the Padlet as an example if you need one. Okay, so this allows the student to set goals in order to improve their attendance, and then for them to sign it. So again, this is secondary. You can edit this. You can add in a parent signature spot. Okay, and then this is a help bank, which I thought was helpful. So who's in their village? Who's in their circle of help? Okay, so family, people who live in the house, everyday people, okay, neighbors, family members that are outside the house, etc., occasional helpers, and then even potential helpers. Like, all else fails, can we call a cab to get to school? Can we call an Uber? There are Ubers available in Toledo. Now they do cost money, so that is something to look at. But, you know, all else fails, can we call an Uber? Can we call a cab in order to get where we need to be? So they have this they can list who's available and a contact number. So this can be hanging on the refrigerator. Okay, you missed the bus and mom and dad are at work. Who else can you call? Okay, friend with a car, etc. And then this is an example, that calendar, so they can keep track of what days they have missed. So they've got the visual of, this is how many days of school I've missed. Okay. And then a reminder, 10% of the school year is a chronic absence. We're entering the warning zone when we have 10 to 17. Satisfactory is 9 or fewer for the school year. So we can look at, I was present.
I bet that calendar is shocking for some.
Yeah, again, the 9 times. And I need to look up the Abbott Elementary one to update my 9 times or some version of that. Okay. So looking, even if we looked at it for at the beginning of the year for the year before, okay, hey, let's take a look at this. You were absent a lot last year. Which of these strategies would help? I mean, something as simple as an alarm clock, the old-fashioned alarm clock, or putting their phone alarm clock across the room. I've done that for myself. If I have to be out of bed before 6 a.m., my brain says that's still the middle of the night. So I have to put my phone across the room and take off my smartwatch now because I can turn it off on my smartwatch, so that I actually have to get out of bed in order to turn off my alarm so that I don't fall back to sleep and end up late someplace. So how can we help them problem solve like that? Do they need an old-fashioned alarm clock where you have to plug it into the wall and then go in and turn it off physically in order to make them get out of bed and then not get back into bed? Okay. So I thought this was a good option. And again, these come in various languages. And I know most resources right now, they're working on translating things in as many languages as they can, because the number of languages we're working with in schools in Ohio, in the United States, is growing and growing. All right, and then this is the toolkit that comes with that parent video that we showed at the beginning. So it has basic information about how to engage families, starting early, establish that positive relationship, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and as you scroll down and scroll through, here is the bringing attendance home video that we watched earlier. Okay, so when could we show this? Back to school nights, open house, report card pickup, et cetera, et cetera. At one of those family nights. Okay. Illustrating the gap in 3rd grade reading. So this is an activity that you could do during one of those parent engagement nights. Again, this is a little more of an elementary example. Okay. But talking about how much academic instruction students are missing. I feel like chronic absenteeism has been a problem for a long time, but post-pandemic, well, the kids were learning at home. So therefore the kids can learn at home. They don't have to be in school. Seems to be kind of a pervasive underlying attitude that I'm hearing from educators and from families. A lot of good stuff is happening in school, so we need to make sure that kids are there. So this kind of talks about what kind of impact missing that much school can have. Here's a washing the elephant. I was like, what is this? So one person to leave the room, and then you explain to the other people that they are going to pretend to wash an elephant. Okay, so someone's going to do, one member of the group to demonstrate no words washing an elephant. We invite that person that's been out of the room, has missed that actual oral instruction, and have them just observe what this person is doing and then guess what's happening. Okay, so just as a example of, if you're not here for the whole lesson, there's going to be some big holes in the learning, some big missing pieces. I thought that was fun. I think that can be done at any age. You can do that with your kids. I'll just show, look how hard this is to figure out what's going on when you've missed. All right, so lots of different activities. How parents can make a difference at home. This is a parent activity. And then scenarios, okay? So you read the scenario or get the scenario and then ask the questions to reflect. Okay, so they read the scenario and then they answer these questions. Does your parent help you get to school on time every day? If you're one of these people in this scenario, okay? So again, it's reinforcing some of those things that, oh, bless you, Corey, thank you. That'll save me a minute. Marty, could you copy that link that Corey just put in the chat and at some point email it to me, please? So reinforcing what families can do at home through these scenarios, through reading about fictional kids and why they're missing school. Okay. What's down here? And then different appendices. Okay, so talking about this 3-tiered approach. If you didn't hear our first semester attendance, we talk about strategies to use for universal tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 approaches. So all those videos are on that Padlet. Feel free to hop back and look at those if you are interested. Okay, so lots of different things in this handout that go along with that video that we watched to begin with. All right, how could you use these? What do you think looks the most interesting to check out? Things that you think would be a good addition to your toolkit to look at and address chronic absenteeism, Corey and Ms. Bruno, things that you're thinking about you could do to help. Oh, that one's better. Awesome. Thank you. To help with that beginning of the year attendance push.
Yeah, one of the things I know that I'm going to do next year, and this came from that first session, we're going to do a 30-day right off the get-go with EWS instead of waiting till we get so far down the road. So we're going to do a 30-day check-in with EWS and just identify kids earlier and just make some proactive phone calls to say like, hey, I see your kid right off the get-go. It's kind of missing. Is there anything going on? How can we help you? And I'm not sure if I'm going to make those phone calls myself or if I'm going to ask our social worker to do it just so it's a little more approachable. So we're kind of talking about that. And I am really excited about doing just an attendance campaign. It's something I never thought about before. So now I'm like super invested in it right now because I just want to do something other than go down the road of perfect attendance because at the end of the day, I just don't really care about that. I know that's an awful thing to say, but kids, when they're sick, they need to be out. But I'm coming up with some really cool ideas, just, getting some of these like community kind of engagement. I just don't, it's hard because the kids at the younger grades may get really excited that a police officer is greeting you at the door to do a high five, but like our high school kids aren't super excited to high five the police officer at 7:45. So I'm just trying to think of some other people that they might be like, oh my God, did you see who was there? So those are kind of the things I'm trying to incorporate all these things that we're talking about together to just come up with a big thing. But one of the things that you talked about just about how is our support staff dealing with not even just them, but our teachers and our support staff when they come in late, what's the secretary? So doing some training like, hey, actually I'm glad you're here today. Sorry you're running late. Let me just get you a pass. Like it's not a time to have a whole conversation. But just some other things like that. They already know they're late, right? Like that little boy you talked about. They already know they're late, but I'm just glad you're here and kind of doing some of those other things. So yeah, that second clip from Abbott Elementary is a little better because the other one cuts off before it gets like, did you talk to the parent? Like it's so you'll get a good chuckle out of it. Just about, sometimes you do just have to talk to them because they don't realize it's that big of a deal, truthfully. Not always, right? But sometimes it's just a small thing. So I'm working with some AI in Canva to make me some like blasts that we can send out on our social media and in our newsletter that just give those tips about like, did you know for every day that you miss your kid this, right? And just short things maybe to just keep hitting that mark.
Absolutely. Sounds like a great plan. If you write all that up in a plan and send it to me, please.
I'm
Don't
working
brag
on
about
it. I got big goals, but my AI friends are helping me because, as you know, there's just not enough time. So,
Use your
yeah, trying to
resources
put
wisely.
resources. Yeah, well, and now I'm getting a little better, like taking some of these resources you're giving us and uploading it when I ask for stuff, like use this resource to do this. Yeah, got to use what we have, but
Yeah,
Something I was
sounds
thinking
great.
about right away. Since we just started our third trimester, I am going to tomorrow morning, actually probably before I leave school today, I am going to put that school year calendar in each of my homeroom check-in folders. I have 7 students that have check-ins on their IEPs. And I think they would be wowed to know the number of days they have missed. So, and then have them fill it in the day they get back, like color it in, or, I mean, it's so simple. Take 2 seconds to color in. Hey, I noticed you were gone yesterday. Because 2 of my students were gone today, and this was day 2 of the trimester. So they're 2 of my check-in students that were already gone. So the calendar's going in there immediately.
Awesome. Good job. Good job. Good job. All right, Martha, Laura, Margie, any thoughts?
A whole lot of this isn't within my control, within my position in the district, but I do like the calendar, and I do like the resources for. I'm on a DLT subcommittee that's supposed to look at the intervention team process, the policy and how it plays out. So some of these I can incorporate some things there.
Awesome. Yeah. Who do you need to share them with? That's the thing. If it's not within your locus of control, who do you get to pass the buck to?
Yeah, I don't know. There were about 8 people that said they were coming to these. I'm wondering how many did.
We didn't have a huge crowd in the morning, so maybe they're watching we'll presume positive intent. Maybe they're watching the videos afterwards. So Laura says, I'm always thinking of ways to involve parents at events. Love the elephant activity. Yeah, I thought that one, just the name of it caught my attention. So there you got a hook right there. And then, yeah, it's a good visual on things that make it ways that you don't think about kids missing things when they aren't actually in the classroom.
Okay, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's one thing I'm having a hard time finding. I found a cool tool to like take your letter and kind of grade it for if it's friendly or not, but I didn't find good templates for better letters.
Okay.
I could use help with that.
Okay. Those are on our Padlet somewhere.
Okay, yeah, I was on the Ohio State Family Engagement Center and I was hunting and I just wasn't being successful.
Yeah, there's so much on there. And I know they've been having issues with their handouts, their website. Ooh, there we go. Attendance form letters.
Yeah, that's the one about like doing the grading of yours, but there's no template for a good one.
I thought this one had an actual.
That's what I was kind of hoping for. That's like that's one's going to tell me my letter is awful. That's what that form's going to tell me.
Okay. All right, I'll dig.
Okay. Yeah, if you find a good one, if you find one that's like, I don't want to say nice because that's not the word, but family friendly language or some solutions focused kind of language, something like that. I'd love to see what somebody else has because ours is real unfriendly.
Yeah, I know they're on here somewhere.
Okay.
So I'll dig.
Thanks,
And
Hannah.
if I can't find it, then I will contact Dr. Boone at Statewide Family Engagement Center and say, where is that?
Yeah, mine's gonna say polishers down there.
All right, I'll look. I will dig. Thank you for letting me know that that's not what I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, where's the actual calendar?
That's on the Attendance Works website.
Yeah.
On this one.
What'd you have to go under to get to it? Because there's a million different things you could pop open.
This one. So that's the website that I'm on right here. And it's down here.
So are you under like teacher resources?
Oh,
now that I see it.
resources.
Resources. Okay.
Under resources, and then actually what I did here is up in the search, I put family engagement, and that pulled up all sorts of stuff. But the link I put in the chat, that gets you to this page.
Also, if you look in the Padlet under engagement equals attendance session 3, one of the actual pictures is the calendar. And when you click on that, it's called Student Attendance Success Plans and My Family's Help Bank, Jigsaw Group 2. When you click on that, the calendar is right there.
Okay.
Yep. So here we are on the Padlet. Thanks, Margie. So here is that link. All right, so lots of links. So this is the research brief that Statewide Family Engagement Center put together in order to kind of synthesize all the research. That's where my first few slides came from, with those 4 different ways, 4 different bullet points, 4 or 5 different bullet points. So that's where that one came from. And then we'll talk about these that are coming. Okay, so for the Statewide Family Engagement Center, when I went on the website, this is where I just put attendance in the website search bar. So this website up here, if you just put attendance, a lot of the resources that pop up are from Attendance Works, but they've aggregated them all. Even just resources to improve attendance. Oh, again, this is why I was getting a little overwhelmed trying to put this together to make it 2 hours or less, because lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff. Ooh, this one looks like a good one, Corey. Maureen. 10 high yield actions to improve student attendance for high schools. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
There you go. Create a mentor program. So Chelsea Bodnarik, who's another consultant in my office, she and I are meeting on Friday with the University of Minnesota people to talk about Check and Connect and see if we can get trained as trainers for Check and Connect for some reasonable amount of time and money. And so that could be coming next year in the future, that we could do some training on Check and Connect, since we talk about that strategy all the time. Like she came up with the idea, why don't we get some formal training on this so that we can go in more depth besides here, check out the University of Minnesota. So, okay. Lots of good resources. And if you find something that's really awesome, feel free to send it to me. I'll put it on the Padlet. Like, again, I'm beg, borrow, steal. Put it all on there so that people don't have to go digging quite so hard. So let me jump back in real quick here. Jigsaw. All right. Let's talk about students with disabilities. We want all kids in school. Sometimes kids with disabilities have some extra challenges to getting to school. Sometimes that's bullying, okay? Sometimes that's feeling really frustrated with academic tasks that they have to do, because that academic tasks can be hard for them, or social tasks can be hard for them. Students with health concerns, you saw in one of the videos, having a school nurse available to help address some of those is really helpful. Whitmer High School now has a clinic on their campus And it's all grant funded, hopefully still grant funded. But they have a healthcare clinic with mental health professionals there, medical professionals there. So if a student is concerned about an asthma attack, or a student with disabilities, is having a health concern, there are trained medical personnel on campus at the high school, and their junior highs right now are very close to that, but they have access to healthcare. It also provides access to healthcare for their families, whether they're in junior high, high school, or elementary schools, so that they have the option to get healthcare and not let something get out of control to where they're missing lots and lots of school. Looking at those alternatives to suspension and expulsion, we know that kids with disabilities, you have to watch those 10 days of suspension to make sure that they are not approaching that without and if they get there, then we have a manifestation determination, possible FBA and BIP. Bottom line is suspensions. Occasionally we need to do that when it's something that's illegal and dangerous or completely disruptive to our educational process. But in general, suspensions and expulsions don't work. Research says they just don't work. And so what else can we do to help change behavior? And give you a magic wand, I know. But what other options can we explore to change behavior? Because if whatever the consequences, if it's the same consequence that you've given more than one time for the behavior, and it's not changing the behavior, then the consequence isn't working. So we have to find something different. Okay. And then we want to, especially at the high school, middle school, and high school level, we want to encourage families and students to be involved in their IEP process and their transition plan, so that they see the value. We're working on these skills to get you where you want to be after graduation, so that you can have a diploma, have a federally recognized diploma, graduate, and then have the skills you need to do what you would like to do next. English learners, this is a hot topic right now. With all of the changes at the federal level. Again, we aren't going to get political here, but just a lot of changes at the federal level, and families are scared. Kids are scared, and with good reason. They're concerned that kids are concerned they're going to come home and their families will have been arrested. There are concerns about ICE showing up at schools. So in order to help mitigate that, we want to recognize and validate that fear. It is a real fear. It is happening. Not so much ICE showing up at schools, that I've seen a couple of places, but people are being arrested with the intention to deport them. We want to make sure that our school has created a policy and a protocol. If ICE does show up at the school, what is the protocol that is going to be followed? In the past, schools have been considered safe havens where ICE was not allowed to enter. Your school district needs to dig into that and figure out what your policy is going to be if that should happen. I don't know that the Toledo metro area is a huge area for ICE to be really focused on, but we don't know. Okay. We want to make sure we're communicating with families, preferably in their home language as much as possible, to help reassure them. You may need to hold virtual meetings with families, so that because they may be concerned about coming into the school building. And be sensitive about any home visits. Official looking people knocking on the door right now is not a good thing. Want to make sure you're working with any community agencies, so that you make sure that you have the same kind of, they can help you with messaging and information that is going out, so that everybody's staying on the same page, and then stay informed. If you are not on my English learner educator list, my email list, and would like to be, shoot me your email. I'm happy to put you on there. There is a publication coming out right now called Immigrant Connections, and they seem to be very on top of what has been changing, what is actually happening, because we also have to be careful, because listening to all media sources is not always the most accurate way to get information right now. So was that diplomatic? Okay. But it is a real concern. It is a real concern among your immigrant families. And even people, I know in Findlay, there's a concern, people who have come on with legal status have come into the country, that status has been revoked. And so they could be deported even though they have been here legally. So it's a scary time. It is a scary time for a lot of the families. So bottom line is the kids are in our schools. We have a legal obligation to educate every child that comes into our public school system. And we want to make that place as safe as possible for them and make them feel safe and supported as much as possible. Okay. Comments, questions, concerns, things you've seen either with students with disabilities, English learners, anybody else? Good. It's kind of something to be aware of. All right, so next steps. How might you share this with other important people in your district? How do we add it to your attendance plan? Corey, go.
Maureen, how are you going to share this with your colleagues? I'm wondering.
Well, funny part about this is our department chair is not going to be at our meeting on Monday, so she asked me to take over. So I have my own agenda because this is the second conference I've been to that nobody else in my department has been to. So I'm like, I have stuff to share with people because I'm a writer downer. And yeah, I got stuff to share.
Maureen, I did also share with you the early warning system stuff. So you guys can talk about by grade level who's popping up that maybe you guys didn't think about that can help your conversation too.
I really like Tammy, I'm special ed. So in my department, sitting down with those student success plans, because we do meet with our students and I do sit with my students one-on-one to do check-ins with them. I really like success plans. So those will be printed along with the calendars, like ASAP.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad you guys have glad to be able to provide some resources that you can use next week. And again, as soon as the video from this one comes up, Lisa will clean it up and make it look pretty for us. So get rid of some pauses and things like that. But once it's up, I'll put it on the Padlet if you want to play a clip, share it with other people to watch, whatever. So appreciate it. All right, I have one more video. And then if you could fill out, Marty also put in the chat, I have a QR code in the next slide, and fill out the evaluation. I would appreciate that. Always want to make these valuable to you. This is a video, so at older grades, this might be really interesting. This is a video that high schoolers made to speak to their own peers about school attendance. So thought it was a cool example. Can you hear the music? Didn't play last time. I thought that was cool. Obviously, creative writing class. was helpful with that. Media class, drama class, whomever you could talk into helping you out with something like that. I thought that would be an interesting addition to the toolbox for encouraging attendance. So, all right, that is the end of what I have, although I am going to play this Abbott Elementary. So if you'd like to stay and watch while you're filling out the QR code, I'm happy to have you do that. But if you can give us some feedback, that would be great. Corey, I would love to see that plan when you get it put together and all AI beautiful and all of that. That would be awesome. Just it makes the people at the state level happy. Everyone wins. Awesome.
Do you know this book? Are you aware of it?
Not.
Okay, I just picked this up at BASA last week. Scholastic gave it to me. I haven't got very far in it because you get a million things and I'm just kind of leafing through it. But so far I'm thinking it's got some really good stuff. But it is kind of marrying those two things, just like practical solutions to making sure everybody's feeling included. It's got some good attendance things in here too. But
Mhm.
mostly family engagement, right?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. I will look that up. It's always looking for good stuff. Beg, borrow, steal. All the things. All right. Okay, I'm gonna hit go. If you guys want to fill out the attendance or the evaluation, you have the link already. Are you good? Can I pull up this video?
Hopefully I'm not the only person that found this hilarious, but if you're an Abbott Elementary fan, it'll make sense.
I do love Abbott Elementary. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, where's our sound? And what did I do? Okay, going back.
To sit. What color are you doing?
Clear?
No loitering and no clear.
Okay. Blue on one nail. Thank you. Can we talk now, please?
We could, but there isn't much more to say other than you need to talk to the parent.
Look, I understand. There just has to be another way to do this other than awkwardly talking to the parent first thing in the morning.
Well, try it this way. You could talk to your student's parent right now.
Hold on. Now, did you call her?
I did not. But when you said it was Joel, I remembered that his mother comes here every 2 weeks to get her nails done, just like I do.
Hey, Mrs. Howard.
Hello, Amber.
Aren't you my son's teacher?
Yes.
Getting your nails done. Word.
Can you give me something bold, something that starts a conversation?
So, Amber. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we met already, but nice to meet you too.
So, your son Joel, you've been bringing him to school at 9. School starts at 8. Is there a reason for this?
Well, nosy. I start my shift at my job at 9:30. So it's easy for me to drop him off before that and go straight to work instead of going home or whatever.
Right.
Can I get some rhinestones that say I'm not afraid of awkward interactions?
Literally or metaphorically? Because I can do that design, it'll just be $50 extra.
Well, I hear what you're saying, Amber. Your son needs to be at school at 8. He's missing a lot of vital learning.
Word? I thought y'all just be playing with blocks and stuff.
No, this isn't daycare. By the time he comes in, we're already working on primary reading and math. He's always struggling to keep up.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I would hate for him to fall behind and have to retake the grade. Now, I don't want that, but that's as much up to you as it is up to me.
I get you. I don't want him to fall behind. He's a smart kid.
Very.
Okay. I'll bring him at 8 from now on.
It's kind of nice.
Word.
Perfect. Thank you, Corey.
You need your
I
nails done.
can't say that I'm responsible for that. I found that at this attendance session that I went to, and I was like, that's what I need to
Is
show
testing assigned to this
our
dog
teachers,
user.
because they don't realize sometimes the parent just doesn't even think it's that big of a deal. And the teachers are like, how can they not understand? But I'm like, that is really accurate. They're like, oh, I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. So
Yeah.
very funny.
I'm just trying to
being fun.
commute smartly. That is perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you
All right.
guys so much for being here today. I appreciate you. I appreciate the interaction and the conversation back and forth. If I can help in any way with attendance plans or brainstorming ideas, just let me know.
Thank you.
you,
Thanks,
Tammy.
Tammy, for all the resources. I love it.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Mhm.
Have a great afternoon.